BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. Right now, we are going to be going back to one of the stories that we've been following on this channel, and that is the series of car bombings and attacks that have been happening in Somalia. And very specifically, recently there was a bombing about 2 days ago. Right now it's January of 2020 in the town of Afgoye, which is very close to Mogadishu in southeastern Somalia. And to give a little bit of an introduction before we say anything, let's jump over to this article from somalitimes.co.uk. 3 people were killed and about 20 others injured Saturday following a car bomb explosion in Afgoye area. An explosive-laden car blew up near a food cafe in Afgoye, with initial reports indicating it was targeting Turkish contractors who are involved in a road construction project in the area. Now, the first thing we got to say about this is, when we did our last upload talking about some of the more conspiratorial things that people are saying about Somalia, Turkey is very much interested in the region. Recep Tayyip Erdogan said this very clearly, and not only that, he also accused the British of being behind plans to sabotage the Turks and their endeavors. And I saw this on the CGN Africa Facebook page. That was how I first found out about this car bombing. And I noticed in the comment section most people were blaming Al-Shabaab, but there are a few people that are talking about some of the foreign powers that are interested in what's going on with Somalia, in short, being able to have access to Somali ports for future use. And of course, when you're talking about Africa, people are always interested in natural resources, but with Somalia, they have all that coastline on the Horn of Africa. It could be very valuable to future nations and the way they want to expand their import-export and just connecting their connections to the African continent as well as the Indian Ocean. People were saying in the comments section on CGTN that some people are blaming the UAE and Saudi Arabia, the Emiratis and the Saudis. But what we said last time was these some of the more I really don't want to say the word conspiratorial all the time, but I guess you would say an alternative approach to what the MSM is promoting is that the Qataris are actually behind some of these bombings. Like, Al-Shabaab gets all the blame, right? But it's actually the government of Qatar that is trying to do these things to drive out foreign interests and to drive out other foreign competitors from gaining access to anything that's going on in Somalia. But the thing is, though, the article that we read last time was really talking about how the Qataris are trying to drive out the Emiratis, like the UAE, they want to drive out the Emiratis. And people were actually accusing the Emiratis of being behind this particular attack. But let's just get a few more details. The attack comes barely 3 weeks after a truck loaded with explosives exploded at a checkpoint in an ex-control area, killing 95 people and injuring over 170 others. Absolutely horrible. The militant group Al-Shabaab, which claimed responsibility in the December 28th attack, said it was targeting Turkish engineers. 2 Turkish nationals were involved in the road construction crew that were killed in the attack. More to follow. So you see, the narrative that the mainstream media is really trying to put out is that Al-Shabaab just wants to drive out foreigners out of Somalia, drive out foreign investments, that they want to create this sort of just more ethnic, Islamic, pure Somali state and such. But it takes just a single Google search to find out that there are a variety of theories on the subject, and a variety of theories about what's been going on with all of these things here. So we really can't be too close leading to one source, but back in October of 2017, there were 500 casualties in a Mogadishu truck bomb, and The Guardian here has an article about it. I mean, the people of Somalia are really being brutalized. And right now, though, just to talk about one thing in sort of a theoretical way, some people really will try to tell you that when you see things like Al-Shabaab, those are just fringe radicals who get duped into a series of actions by a foreign power, or perhaps even a conglomerate of foreign entities, not exactly like a political action committee, but sort of just a multinational effort. Like foreign corporate entities are just even hiring these people as thugs to commit these types of actions. And that stuff gets very theoretical because a lot of people aren't necessarily presenting that with 100% certainty. They lay it out as a possibility. So when you always see these things, Al Shabaab claimed responsibility, ISIS claimed responsibility, Boko Haram claimed responsibility. I mean, some people who commit the attacks might be a genuine believer in what they're doing in the cause of Al Shabaab, and they're just viewed as dupes and fools and just fringe radicals who gets deceived into committing these actions. I mean, I don't necessarily know if we have 100% certainty that that's what's going on here with Al Shabaab in Somalia and this attack on the Turkish workers. I believe that I was reading in a different article from another website that what happened was there was a car that drove into a restaurant where the Turkish individuals and some Somali police officers were having lunch. They drove into the restaurant, and that's when the car bomb exploded. Like, they drove right through the front wall, the car bomb exploded, and that's what led to the deaths of these individuals. But it's important, though, for us to be somewhat skeptical of the MSM always, because I think it's fairly well accepted now that the mainstream media does not always tell the truth. And we have another article here that is coming from a website that I've never used before called Goobjoog News. GOOBJOOG, Goobjoog. And just to get a few more things about the Afguye suicide attack. 3 people were killed and 20 others injured in a suicide car bomb attack in Afguye, Somalia. Among the dead was the deputy commander of the Turkish trained special forces. Turkish news agency Andalus said 4 engineers working for a Turkish construction company were injured in the attack. There was no immediate claim of responsibility. Al Shabaab claimed responsibility for the truck attack in December, which killed 89 and over 50 were injured. And the truck attack in December also included 2 Turkish nationals. Al Shabaab said it was targeting the Turkish road contractors in December, but there's no news as of now if this one is reported to Al Shabaab doing the same thing. But what we say it is. And I think a lot of parties are in agreement. Somalia is going to be very valuable to a lot of foreign powers. That's one thing. Do governments always tell the truth? No. Are governments involved in things like covert actions? And is this something that is out of possibility? No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, we're talking about like a government or a multinational corporation hiring a bunch of thugs to commit these things to drive out foreign competition. I don't believe that that's the case. Another nation that's actually very much interested in Somalia is the Chinese. I mean, China, another nation that is interested is China. The Chinese are very much interested in Somalia, and CGN puts out a lot of reports about how they wanted to encourage investment in Somalia. They put it right out on their English news channel. Not to mention, they're even launching tour groups to Somalia. I mean, they're really trying to bring a lot to the country. So in short, the nation of Somalia is going to be very valuable to a lot of different people. But and even during Somalia's darkest times, they still conducted a certain series of trade with the Chinese, but the number was only in the single digit of the millions in terms of the exchanges, and that's in the darkest of days, like when Somalia was in its absolute lowest point in an actual anarchist state. And when we say anarchy in Somalia, like, I mean, a lot of people really take exception to that. They say that Somalia was never an anarchist state. It was never an anarchist area. It's like, in fact, there were just many different warring factions that wanted to become the government. Then, no matter what we've said in terms of theory, no matter what we said in terms of possibilities, that would be the case. You just have many different groups that want the power. It's not really done in anything like, based on any sort of principle of non-aggression, or it's not really done about respecting the individuality of others. I think all parties would agree that there are many different groups in Somalia that just want the power for themselves. And it's very possible, though, that there is a larger degree of truth about what goes on with Al Shabaab. We got to play the different sides of the issue, because this thing only happened 2 days ago. This car bomb in Afguye. And what we can say about that is, when you talk to people who have like a background in the military, and sometimes you can even talk to someone who has a background in intelligence, what they say is just all of this stuff, about other foreign governments trying to recruit criminal thugs into committing terrorist attacks. They're like, yeah, that doesn't happen. And, that's just one person's word for it. So I'm always a little bit skeptical even of what they say. I mean, did they work with this very specific issue? Probably not. Or I can say with certainty the people that I've talked to have not worked with Somalia. But when I talk to people, like I said, ex-military and ex-intelligence, the way they approach it is they like to say that no, foreign governments do not hire criminal thugs to commit their bidding and to commit these types of actions. Usually, these are just the results of people living in an unstable economic area, in an unstable political area, and it just leads to chaos, and that's why these terrorist attacks happen. So, that's a big thing that we need to note that is also possible. So, in short, when you talk to people from those backgrounds, they really say, actually, there's a lot of truth in the mainstream narrative about Al Shabaab. But at the same time, I'm always going to be asking more questions because, like I said in our most recent upload on Somalia, when you sort of see this in the headlines all the time, do you ever get skeptical? Do you ever just get like a little bit curious? Do you ever become a little bit doubtful about what the MSM has to say? Do you ever just begin to feel that, is it possible that you're not getting the whole story and you aren't being told the truth? Okay, Al Shabaab is just bombing Somalia all the time. That's possible, but also you just can do a very simple Google search and you see the Qataris are being accused of driving out foreign powers, and people are now accusing the Saudis and the Emiratis of doing the same thing. John Perkins wrote a book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman, where he talks about how he was the economic hitman, and there are three major ways that foreign governments can manipulate the system to their advantage. And we said the system because first and foremost, they can try and control the situation economically. That's what the economic hitman was. The second way a foreign government can control another system is they send in these things called the jackals. And the jackals are people that can cause internal uprisings, people that can cause some sort of internal calamity, perhaps even to the level of a military-backed coup or something like that, but causing political unrest and disorder, provoking someone into a destructive result. And then the final one, if that doesn't work, is they can do something like the invasion of Iraq, when they can have a full-scale military invasion. And once again, that's from the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Is that going on in Somalia? I'm not 100% sure, but I can say that we can address the possibility. And I just wanted to talk about this one today because I noticed that people are actually talking about these alternative possibilities. You know, people who are possibly in Somalia, definitely people who are in Africa, are talking about some of the alternative theories about Somalia and how foreign powers are staging these attacks so they can gain control of Somalia's ports. Well, that's all for me now. Short upload today about this thing here, and I would just love to hear what anybody has to say. I mean, we had one person write in from Somalia last time giving his thoughts on the subject. I would love to hear what anybody has to say about this. And if you have any comments at all, please drop a comment below. If you like this upload, you can hit the like button. If you want to subscribe, you're welcome to do so. And until next time.